welcome back to How to Invest for Yourself. And today I thought I would run through some numbers here. And I would assume, if you've watched any of my other videos, you would know what numbers I'm referring to. So we're looking at a scenario here so that I can show you how I do velocity banking on my own. And then all these numbers are fictitious, they're not real, they're just to show you an example of what can be done and how you can do it to start tracking your own velocity banking and also do predictions ahead of time. So there's multiple ways of doing this and there's plenty of YouTube videos out there that show it. But here I'm just going to show you how I do it. Again, I'm not a financial advisor. I am not certified in any way. This is just for educational purposes, for entertainment, not really so much entertainment, but mostly to kind of help people to open up their eyes and look at things as there's other possibilities of how we can pay off debt besides the Dave Ramsey's of the world, the snowball method and the avalanche method. Velocity banking is nothing more than just a tool to do the same thing at a efficient manner and maybe help with some of the fallbacks of the Dave Ramsey method as well. So let's start with our income here. We have an income of $5,000 that this person makes. So how do we come up with these numbers? So if you remember in my previous video, I mentioned that you would have to find out exactly what all your numbers are, meaning what your income is, what the income is coming from, and if it is just one job, in this case it's one person, one job, super easy, so it's not overly complicated. And I know that there are super complicated things, but I think we have to start with some kind of basics that most people can kind of relate to on a very basic level. So this person has a salary, right? So they're either hourly or salary, but they know what their monthly income is. So what I did was I broke down the frequency. So the frequency is what I asked, and the frequency is bi-weekly. So every other week they get paid $2,307.69. In order to start this velocity banking, we have to kind of line up everything, make sure everything's good to go. We know what our numbers are, we know what our debt tool is, we know what our debts are, we know what our expenses are, we know what our interest rates are, we know what our payment dates are. We can set up an index to figure out which debts we want to pay off first. And in some cases you can do that, or you just eyeball it and figure it out on your own. Either way, you're just going to attack debt. So in this case, we went for the Visa card because it has a maximum limit available to it of $15,000, even though the balance on the card is $12,000. So that's not going to be a problem. We do have a little bit of cushion there. You have about $3,000 to play with. And if you add up all of his debts and expenses, it's almost $4,000. But his cash flow is $925. So this is going to help us out. Anytime you have positive cash flow, that helps us to get out of debt faster. But I like to do the weekly budgeting because in weekly budgeting, I'm able to see exactly when things I expect to come out. And I'm also building a buffer for things that I don't know exactly when they come out. Like, for example, do you know the exact day of the week that you get gas? Do you know the exact day and the amount of money that you spend on groceries? Do you know the exact days that you ride the tolls and how much the tolls are every single day? Do you know when you go out to eat, is it always a set amount that you spend every single time that you go out? So those kind of things are very variable. Maybe you go to a haircut place and sometimes it's $18 and sometimes it's $15 and then sometimes you tip. It just depends. So we did an average based across like 6 months worth of looking at all the different bank accounts. He only had one. Looking at all the Visa and MasterCard statements, Discover card statements, and the loan to see every single month, what are you paying out? Like, which ones are you hitting the most, and then try to categorize all that stuff. So it's a lot of homework in the beginning. But once you know what your numbers are and you try to change your habits from just, oh, shiny new thing, swipe. Oh, look, I need a new TV. That's a nice TV. Swipe. You have to change your mentality on how you spend if you're trying to get out of debt. Because if you're doing velocity banking and you're not changing your habits, you're just going to go right back into debt, if not worse. You don't want to do that. So you already have to be in that mindset of, I don't want to have this debt control me any longer. I want to have the flexibility to invest in my future. And anytime you want to invest in your future, you can't have debt hanging over your head. Look at the interest rates here. Like, for example, the car loan is 6.8%, right? If you look at the way investments are nowadays, stocks and stuff like that, you'll be lucky to get 6% just because inflation and taxes will eat you alive right off the bat. Look at the other loan. The loan's 16%. You're not going to get 16% investing in your 401k. I mean, let's just be real. Like your Visa, your MasterCard, especially your MasterCard at 30%, there's no way you can tell me that you're making 30% investing to pay your MasterCard, right? It's not. You're just losing money every single day that you own this debt. So you want to free yourself. All right, anyways, off my soapbox. So what we're going to do is we listed out all of the debts, right? Debts are like a finite number that you can identify what you owe, easy to look up, and you can look up what your minimum payment is. That's easy to look up. You can look at your due date. That's easy because it's always consistent or around about that same date. And you can look at your interest rate. Now that may go up depending on the loan, or if it's a revolving line of credit that's variable, that may go up. And then you can go from there, right? There are certain things like your subscriptions, they may be good for a year and then they'll go up. Your cell phone bill may be one of those consistent bills that are all the time, but you can never pay it off unless you close your account. So these type of things like groceries, you're never going to pay off, right? Gas, you're never going to pay off unless you get rid of the car. Subscriptions, you could cancel that and get rid of it, right? Tolls, you could probably try to find a method of avoiding tolls and saving that money, sure. But it's variable. You see what I'm saying? Some days maybe you're like, hey, I have another route. I'm going to go to my friend's house. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to take this other route instead of the toll road, and you save money that way. So it's very variable. So I put my expenses in the variable column because rent does fluctuate from year to year. Insurance can fluctuate depending on what happens within that 6 month or 1 year period. So every 6 months your policy gets renewed. Your internet could go up. You could be on a promo, and there's no way of paying it off. You see what I'm saying? There's no like, hey, if you want internet, just pay $10,000 and that's it. So you see what I'm saying? It's not a debt per se. It is an expense. Okay, so we got all that categorized, and then because I don't have an exact date for like gas, groceries, tolls, going out to eat, or haircuts, since they're very random, I just took the average and divided that out to be weekly, assuming most months are about four weeks per month. So what I did was I just did the highest number. In this case, the $50 per week instead of dividing by 5, because there are some months that are 5, and you're going to see that over here on the right hand side of our Excel spreadsheet here. So we just divided that up evenly to kind of say, hey, we know that these expenses are going to come out, and they're definitely going to come out through the month. Let's just build up that cushion to make sure that we acknowledge that those expenses are coming. Whether you get the haircut that month or you skip a month, at least you have a cushion of $20. Maybe you only get a haircut once every other month. So now you have $40. So when you go get your haircut, you do spend $20, you ain't hurting. You still have $20 cushion there. So I'd rather overestimate my debts and my expenses and underestimate my pay. So the way I did the pay was I kind of broke it up where I took the $5,000 a month, which was his average. And I said, okay, you make $5,000 a month. Let's go ahead and do 5,000 times 12 divided by 26 because you're paid bi-weekly. And that's where I got this number, $2,307.69. All right. So we're going to start breaking this down, Super Barney style. And what I did on this side of the chart, let me see if I can shrink this up a little bit. It may be a little bit tight, but let's just start here. Okay, so what I do is I create this velocity banking tracker. You can call it whatever you want to call it. Your debt-free voyage, your race to the finish line, your getting ready for retirement tracker, or just keep it simple and be like budget tracker, whatever you want to do. So the way I have this written is I have a month count. So this can be very big if you wanted to. You can just go forever and see how long it would take you to pay off certain amounts of debts. But I break it down by week. So each one of these columns, or not columns, but rows that you see, they're like blocks. Those represent a week. So let's go with the first column here. The first column is the month count. As you can see, there's only a 1 in that entire column because this is all November, right? This is November, so right now we're in October, and we're getting ready to start our velocity banking because we have all of our numbers, we have everything ready to go, we have identified what our debt tool is. As we see here, he's going to be using his Visa. The interest rate, we know what it is, it's 20%. His credit limit max is $15,000. He currently owes $12,000 on it, and his fees for a CA would be a cash advance, or a TR, which would be like a transfer rate, right? So it'd be a 5% charge if he was to transfer debt from one loan to his credit card, or do a cash advance, whether that's a convenience check or pulling cash out of his account. If there's 5% fee. In his case, he's very fortunate because this is kind of rare. He does have overdraft protection for his checking account tied directly to his Visa card, which is the best scenario possible. So basically what he's going to do now is everything that he gets, every time he gets paid, he's going to throw a 100% everything into his credit card. And I'm going to show you how that works, because the only time he's got to do a cash advance, and according to his bank and his agreement, he has an agreement where he doesn't get charged any fees to do a cash advance from his Visa directly to his checking account. So for example, let's say he's with XYB Bank and he has an XYB card, and the XYB Bank says, hey, if you want to pull money out of your card, we're not going to charge you any fees. Just know that your interest will start immediately as soon as that cash are pulled from your credit card and put into your checking account. Okay, so that works out perfect. We did all the research, we did all of our homework, and it's going to work out just fine. All right, so the next thing you're thinking is, well, he pays rent. His rent is $1,200, so how's he going to pay rent? The exact same way. The rent comes out of his checking account like normal, and then he's going to go and it will overdraft from his credit card, and it will be 0 fees. It's a very discomforting feeling, I know, in the very beginning, because I did it as well. My accounts allow me to do it, but I zeroed out my checking account. Every time I get paid, every time I receive any type of cash, any type of money comes into me, I immediately take all that money, all of it, and move it directly to my debt tool, which is tied to my checking account. So we did all that, and we have it all lined up, and now we are writing out the plan. Okay, so this third column here, or second column right here under I, is the month. So we're going to identify the month, and in this case, this whole block area here is just November. Okay, so and then this third column here is the weeks and the dates. So the week count, I have week 1, which is representative here, 1. And if we look at November 30th, or not November 30th, but we look at the calendar, it'll show, I'll have to pull up a calendar here, but it'll show that part of November does fall in October. So he's going to start on that first week, which is technically November, but the day is Monday the 30th and goes through Sunday the 5th. And that's how we're going to roll it every single week, starting on Monday and ending on Sunday. So you start a whole new week on Monday for budgeting purposes. And the reason why I say that is because if you have a bill, or you have a debt, or you have a payment or something that goes through on the weekend, what happens? What happens whenever you put that payment through on your credit card? It'll show pending. It'll show pending on the account until that following Monday, and then it will clear. And for me, it's Monday through Sunday, and then the next week's Monday through Sunday. So you'll see the number goes 1 for the week count. So we're on week 1. The dates of that week count start on Monday, the 30th, and end on Sunday, the 5th, right? For that first week. Okay? So he gets paid because he got paid on October 20th. His next payday is going to be on the 2nd or 3rd of November is when he's going to get paid again. So on that Friday. So he's going to deposit all of his $2,307.69 directly into his credit card, bringing his total down. That's why I put the minus in there, because you're basically reducing your amount on your credit card. He's now down to $9,692.31. So with the withdrawals, what I did was I looked at my dates, my due dates. And because, okay, so this is the other thing I didn't mention right now. He doesn't owe all of this, right? The $1,640 in his debts. He actually owes less because he no longer has to make the $200 payment to his Visa, because he's over satisfying his minimum payment to his credit card. So his actual debts come out to $1,440. So that's not bad at all for his debts. So we have some more cushion to play with. All right, so let's get back to here. So withdrawals. Under withdrawals, we are going to take in everything, all the numbers that are from the 30th to the 5th, and add that up into our debts. All right, so I'm going to highlight them over here, and we'll start at the top. You can see that there's nothing in here. There's one on the 7th, but that's not the 5th, so we don't care. There's none of the debts, right? So we don't care about those. So I'm going to take his weekly. So his weekly is going to be his gas, his groceries, his tolls, his meals out, and his haircut. Automatically every single week. It doesn't matter if there's 5 weeks, 3 weeks, or 4 weeks in the month. We're just going to stay consistent so that he always has a buffer in his budget. So if he spends any money or spends less money on one week or spends more money on the next week, as long as he doesn't go crazy, be like, hey, I went on a road trip across the country and I spent $1,000 in gas. Okay, well we gotta readjust our numbers for that month. It won't be a big adjustment. You just have to make sure you stay on track, keep track of what you spend, and you'll be fine. All right, so it looks like over here that we have our insurance payment and our rent that comes out on the 1st and the 4th. Okay, so we added those numbers in. So that's $1,200 for the rent, $120 for the insurance, and then the $50 for gas, $75 for groceries, $25 for tolls, $90 for meals like eating out, and $5 for haircuts. Now I'm not saying that there isn't any room for like where we could cut back on things, but this is just assuming that you're not going to cut back on anything. You're just going to keep on doing what you're doing, and you'll be fine, right? You don't want to adjust your lifestyle, and most people don't. We have habits, right? Maybe we love Chick-fil-A. We eat at Chick-fil-A for lunch every single day, or maybe we get that breakfast bowl from Chick-fil-A. And I'm not promoting Chick-fil-A. I'm just saying. Maybe you go to Wawa, you go get your gas, and you go grab you a coffee from there or something like that, some snacks or something like that. Maybe you go to Walmart and you buy a whole bunch of snacks there. Maybe you pre-pack your meals. Who knows? I don't judge it. Whatever you want to do. So I just show you your numbers. If you want to cut things back or change things up or change how you do things, I can offer suggestions. That at the end of the day, it's up to you to do those things. All right. So we are going to add up all those things. That's our withdrawals. You see there's a plus sign under withdrawals. That means we're adding that debt to our credit card. So we add those things to our credit card. And what he's going to do, what he would have to do, is go into his credit card and first of all, probably just call them and ask them, hey, how long does it take to do a cash advance from my credit card to my checking account? Oh, that'll take anywhere between 2 to 4 business days or whatever. So then he'll need to plan in advance to say, okay, I need to pull cash 2 to 4 days before my rent is due, and then I'm good. So he doesn't have to swipe his credit card to pay his rent. He doesn't have to swipe his credit card to pay his insurance, because his insurance is already going to be coming out of his checking account as though he is already making the payment, right? His mortgage can also be the same way. He doesn't have to do a cash advance. You don't have to do a cash advance at all. You could do that if it makes you feel better to say, hey, I have the money in my checking account. It's going to cover my rent, and it's going to cover any cash payments that I have to do. Well, that's what the checking account is for. So if you write a check or you have automatic bill pay, like directed to your checking account, you don't have to change it. You don't have to point to the credit card. Now, if there's certain things you can point to the credit card, do it, but then be acknowledging that they are probably going to charge you some fees to do that. But let's just assume we're trying to keep this one super easy because this guy is super lucky, super fortunate in that he can use his Visa card directly with his checking account and not have to pay any overdraft fees or any cash advance fees, as long as he pulls the money from his credit card directly to his checking account and they're the same bank. Same checking account and same credit card is the same bank, and that's in his agreement. And he's called and he's verified and asked all these questions. He's made sure he's done his homework. So that's the most important thing here, is you have to do your homework. All right, back off my soapbox again. So, all right, so then you take out any interest. Well, in this case, his credit card payment is not due until the 15th. So technically there is no interest being charged to his credit card on that date, on that week. So from the 30th to the 5th, there's no interest charges, right? So then you total all that up, which is going to be the subtotal of $9,692.31. That was after his payday. And then he takes out his debts, right? His payments and all that stuff. So that's $1,565, right? So after he's done there, his total at the end of that week should be less than $11,257.31. Notice I said less than, because if he spends more than $11,257.31, there has to be something that had occurred that can be justified to why. Why was this week more expensive than what I estimated? Because this is the maximum that should be on my credit card right now. Okay, so if it's more, maybe he ended up spending, I don't know, he went and got the haircut early. Maybe he spent the $20. So he didn't have like a buffer necessarily. So maybe he did spend the $20 on a haircut now. So that could put you over. But anyways, for the most part, if we stick to the budget and stick to the plan, don't get the haircut that month. Just start building a cushion in your checking account, or in your credit card, I should say, in your credit card. Then whenever it's time to go get your haircut, you can just swipe and go, or do the cash advance to your checking account, pull cash, the $20, and you know exactly what money that's going to, and you spend the $20 cash at the barbershop, and you don't spend any more than that. Okay? So now moving on to week 2, as you can notice again, it says 2 space 6 through 12. So Monday is the 6th and Sunday is the 12th. So you're going to count all those debts. And I kind of color coded it. Here it is brown color. So you can just scroll over here and we can see what is brown on those days. I know it's really kind of hard to see, but it looks like we have the internet, which is $50. That's on the 9th. Looks like this one, the student loans, is $340. And we have the loan, which is $200. So we add all those up, plus our weeklies. We have to add in our weeklies, 50 plus 75 plus 25 plus 90 plus 5. And it should come out to this amount, $835. Again, there's no interest charged on this account. His closing date is coming soon. Even though his due date and his closing date are pretty much on the same, but he still has the 30-day. He almost has a full 30-day grace period before he's charged interest, assuming that he had already paid off his credit card. But he hasn't paid off his credit card. He has a balance, so he's just going to keep on accruing interest anyway. All right, so on week 2, he's not adding in any interest yet. So we total it up. So the balance on his credit card should be less than $12,092.31, right? So you take the balance from the week before, you subtract any income, which he had none that week, he wasn't paid, you're going to get your subtotal of $11,257.31. You're going to add in all of your debts and your expenses, which is $835, and your total will be $12,092.31. Okay, do the same thing the following week. Now he gets paid. He gets paid right here. It's $2,307.69. Brings his subtotal now to his credit card back down to $9,784.62. He's going to take out his payments for that month, which is going to again be the per weekly stuff, 50, 75, 25, 90, and 5. And then he's going to also add in the looks like this cell phone bill, maybe. Let's see here. No, 13 through 19 would be his subscription. His subscription is going to be in there, and his MasterCard payment's going to be in there. So $390. That's it for that week. Now we're going to add in the interest because his credit card is due on the 15th. For the interest is we took the highest balance for that entire month. The highest balance for that entire month is technically on the end of week 2, but if you do the math based on $12,092.31 versus just $12,000 what you started at the beginning of the month, it's pretty much a break-even wash. So it's going to be the $200. All right, you can do the math on the side if you wish. You just take the $12,092.31, multiply by the interest, divide by 12, and that should give you $200. Okay, so we have the $200 here. That's assuming that it's going to stay $200 for your interest, but you should be less. It'll come out to be less, but we're just overestimating our interest charges here. Okay, so now your balance at the end of the week is $10,374.62. Going into week 4, from the 20th into the 26th, he has no income. His subtotal carries down, right? So he has $10,374.62 there. And then his withdrawals. So his withdrawals are in purple. Those will be easier to see. So he's got his car loan, which is his payment there, and his cell phone bill, plus all of his weeklies, right? His weekly information. $785 right there. Nice and easy. And then his balance for the end of the month will be $11,159.62. And then we go into week 5. He does get paid again, which is nice to get paid 3 times in 1 month. He gets paid again. He's going to have to take into consideration, because see, I see a mistake here, right? So if rent and everything is due right at the beginning of the month, that needs to be counted for, and right now it's not counted for in here. So there needs to be an adjustment in here. So it's a good thing we're reviewing this now. The income goes in. His subtotal is $8,851.92. But this number is going to be incorrect because why? Because he has rent due on the 1st. You see that? There's nothing else he has to worry about though. He just has to worry about rent. That's on the 1st because it goes to the 3rd. If you look at the week information, all right, it's from the 27th to the 3rd. So on the 27th is what? He has this $300 Discover card payment and the rent, and then all of his weeklies. So we're going to go in here, we'll adjust the calculation here, and we just need to add in the rent. So we're going to do plus, and we're going to click on the rent, and we're going to add that in. Return. And our balance at the end of the month is $10,596.92. So there you go. You have a weekly budget. It's kind of cool to see. You can see the progress that's happening on your credit card. You can already see he's already gone from owing $12,000 on his credit card at the beginning of November all the way down into the first 3 days of December, and he's already down to $10,596.92. So if he stays on this path, right, keeps going, keeps knocking down his debt, gets his Visa card down to 0 or close to 0, then we can start chunking at the next debt. So that's what this column here is for the indexing, right? So the indexing, the lower the number, the faster you need to pay that card off, basically. That kind of like a gauge of like how efficient that loan is. So like for example, his student loans is at 147, right? That's his student loans. This number is super high, which means his loan is very efficient to his payment. But at the end of the day, this is just to help you gauge which loans you should pay off first. And in this case, I think that the loan that he should pay off first is going to be the Discover card, right? That will free up $300 of cash flow and help him knock out the next bill even faster. So after he's done with the Discover card, start attacking the MasterCard, and then start attacking your loan, and then let's say go after the car loan, and then finally we can take out the last piece, which would be the student loan. You don't want to start with the most efficient loan, the $50,000 efficient loan, because you know you got other fish to fry and higher interest rates that are being tacked on, and your payments are just going nuts right now. Like, it doesn't make sense. And you can tell here, like looking at the percentage rate, you're like, okay, well, maybe I should pay off my car loan. It's only like 16%. It's low interest rate, and that would free up $200. Or maybe I could just pay off my MasterCard. You know, that has the highest interest rate, 30%. Well, you could, but I think the best and quickest win would be the Discover card. Yes, it's only 26% compared to the 30%, and it is more than the 16% for the other loan. But then you're like, man, it's half the amount of debt, first of all, from the $10,000. It's a little bit more debt than the MasterCard because like $2,000 more. But if you can get that knocked off, that gives you $300 right there. The payment alone will give you $300 that you can use to slam out the MasterCard next. So it kind of makes sense to go after the MasterCard next because it is the lowest hanging fruit, and it is the highest interest rate. But there's the method to the madness of how I would do the chunking, and we'll go over that with this scenario in the next video.